Alright, this is Algebra Concepts, Unit 7, and we're looking at Quiz 1 right now. So let's just jump right in. Number 1, it says identify the vertex of the graph. Tell whether it is a minimum or a maximum. So in your packet, you're going to see the graph. It's a parabola. It kind of looks like that. Okay, and it asks, first of all, what's a vertex? So the vertex just means where does it like stop going one direction and turn and go the other? What's the exact point at where you see that? And it's right there. Okay, so this point is 0 because x is 0 at that point, and -1, and that's where the vertex is. So it's just right at that point. Okay, now the next part of the question is maximum or minimum. Well, is that a high part of the graph or is it a low part? Well, that vertex is at the high part of the graph. It's at the highest point that the graph gets to. So it's a maximum. Okay. Now, by the way, you're going to see different graphs. Okay. One's like that and one's like that. Okay. And the vertex will be a maximum on there, but on ones that look like that right here, okay, that vertex would be a minimum. And that graph matches the one we're working with here. So it is a maximum and cannot be the minimum. All right? So, okay, let's move on. Number 2, which quadratic function has the narrowest graph? We got y equals -x squared, y equals 1/4 x squared, y equals 4x squared, and y equals 1/9 x squared. Okay, so if you guys remember from your work that your basic parabola form is kind of like that. If you multiply the x squared by a number between 0 and 1, the absolute value is between 0 and 1, so it could be like -1/2 or -1/4 also. It's kind of fatten it out. Okay, so it's going to look a little bit like that. So it's basically a fraction that is not an improper fraction. Something like 1/4, 1/2, 1/8, 2/5, something like that is going to kind of stretch it out there and kind of fatten the graph. All right. But if you have, if you use a number like a 4, it's going to stretch that thing out just like that. Okay. So this is the answer. This is the narrowest graph because nothing else has absolute value that's larger than 4, and so the answer would be C for that one. Okay, so that's number 2. All right, going on to number 3. Order them in narrowest to, widest to the narrowest. Okay, so we got some different ones here, but they're all pretty much work the same way as the last question. We have y equals -7x squared, y equals -1/5 x squared, and y equals -1/3 x squared. Okay, so which is the widest? Okay, well, which one has the lowest number that's multiplying the x? See, these are all multiplying the x. Which is the smallest number? It's this one. So that one's going to have the widest graph. It's going to kind of look like that. And the 1/3 is going to be wide, but not quite as wide. It's more like that. Okay, and the -7x squared is going to look like this. It's going to be very, very narrow. Okay, so it goes, this is first, this is second, this is third, and that's it. All right, so that answer would be B. B is the answer. And I told you, it doesn't matter if there's a negative there. It doesn't matter how narrow it is. It doesn't affect that. It just affects where it's pointing. So actually, these being negative, these are actually going to kind of go like this. And so let me just fix that. So my apologies. Just got to actually, we're pointing the other way. And in this, with the subject we're talking about, it's not a really big deal, but I just wanted to be a little precise. So it's going to look like this, and then the last one is going to kind of look like that. So they're all going downwards. Okay, so but it hasn't affected what order they're in. So the answer there would be B. All right, B. You got B there. All right, let's move on here. Next one we got, if an object is dropped from a height of 38 feet, the function ht equals negative 16t squared plus 38. Okay, basically basic gravitation. All right, give the height of the object after t seconds. So you want to graph the function. You have different choices here. All right, so basically it's kind of going to look like this. All right, so right off the bat you can eliminate a and b. B, it definitely doesn't go up in height. Okay, and a doesn't quite match that. It's got to look like, got to have that kind of shape. All right, so it starts at 38. Okay, because it says plus 38. So C and D both do that. But look at how the graph works. Let's try, let's look at where it hits the ground. Okay, with letter D, okay, that hits the ground at 3. So the graph kind of is coming down and it's supposed to hit the ground at 3 where the height is 0. So let's just see if this equals 0 if my time is 3 seconds. Okay, so negative 16 times 3 squared plus 38. If that's 0, then that's my answer. All right, so negative 16 times 9 plus 38. All right, you can tell just from this that's definitely not going to equal 0. Okay, so there's no way that's ever going to equal 0. 16 times 9. Well, that's negative 144 plus 38, so it's going to be like negative 106. You know, there's no way that's going to be 0. So the answer has to be C. And if you did this, if you worked it out, it shows that 1.5 seconds gives you a height of 0. Or you can also take like 1 second and just plug it in there. So you get negative 16 times 1 squared plus 38. You know, after 1 second, that's going to give you 22 feet. So you can see in the graph that 1 just about meets where 22 is. So that's, you know, that sounds good. So C would be your answer right there. Okay. Number 5, find the equation of the axis of symmetry. Okay, to find the axis of symmetry of any parabola, it's negative b over 2a, where a is the coefficient of x squared, b is a coefficient of x, and c is the constant. That is just a number by itself. So you got to have it in that form first. If it's in that form, then you're fine. Okay? So you get the axis symmetry. It's just b. So in this case, you have y equals 4x squared plus 5x minus 1. Okay, so what's b? Well, b is going to be right there, right? And a is right there. So we get... let's just draw an arrow. All right, we're going to take negative 5, that's negative b, and we're going to take it over 2 times a, and a in this case is 4. So it's negative 5 over 2 times 4, and we get negative 5 over 8. Okay, so that's going to be our vertex, is where x equals negative 5/8. So now we have a couple of options here. C and D both have negative 5/8 as a vertex, but where is what are the coordinates of the vertex? So I mean the axis of symmetry is x equals negative 5/8, okay, because that's negative b over 2a. But how do you find where the actual coordinates of the vertex are? Well, you have an x, you can find a y, right? Because y equals 4x squared plus 5x minus 1. So we can actually substitute this in for x, and we can get a y value. So let's do that. You take negative 5/8 equals x. Substitute it in. Y equals, this is our equation, I'll just rewrite it here for you, 4x squared plus 5x minus 1. Okay, let's substitute negative 5/8 in there. Y equals 4 times negative 5/8 squared plus 5 times negative 5/8 and then minus 1. Okay? Okay, so we just got to crunch these numbers basically and just multiply it out. So it's 4 times 5/8 squared is going to be 25 over 64. All right, you can square the top and the bottom. and then you're going to add 5 times negative 5/8, which is negative 25/8, and then you subtract 1 from there. All right. So now it's just a matter of multiplying it out. So 4 times 25, 64ths is 164ths. You can convert this into 64ths. You multiply top and bottom by 8. So let's clear up a little room here. So we'll take, so it's 100 over 64, and then 25/8. If we multiply by 8 over 8, we're going to get 64 down there, and it's negative, remember, so it's plus negative, so it's minus 64 there, and then 8 times 25 is 200, and then we have a minus 1. Okay. So now we have 164ths minus 264ths minus 1, and 1 is really 64/64ths, right? So let's just fix that there. 64 minus 64/64ths. Let's make it easy. Okay? So now we can just subtract straight across. 100 minus 200 minus 64. That's going to give us negative 164/64ths. Okay, and then you just divide that out. 64 can go into 164 2 times with 36 left over. So you have a minus 2 and 36/64ths, and that will reduce to negative 2 and 9/16. So that's the y-coordinate of our vertex. So x, where x is equal to negative 5/8, the y-coordinate is negative 2 and 9/16, and that is our pair. So the answer is D. Okay. C also has negative 5/8, but it has the wrong y-coordinate, so we needed that. You needed the correct y-coordinate as well for the vertex. Okay, moving on. For number 6 on day 5, we graph f of x. You can kind of see f of x is like, you can substitute y essentially equals negative 2x squared minus 2x minus 1. Okay, so label the axes of symmetry and the vertex. So again, we need negative b over 2a, right? So this negative 2 is a, and this negative 2 is b, and this is c. So negative b over 2a is negative negative 2, which is positive 2. And then a is negative 2, so it's 2 times negative 2. Okay, well, what's over 2? What's 2 over 2 times negative 2? Well, 2 times negative 2 is 4. All right, well, that comes out to negative 1/2. So x equals 1/2 is our line, it's called the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry will divide for example, this is where the parabola, the axis of symmetry just divides it right in half. All right, so that's what that means when it's talking about an axis of symmetry. In these cases, the ones you're going to see in this unit, they're all x equals something. Okay, all these axes of symmetry are x equals something. Okay, once we find that, we use the negative b over 2a to find that. Now we can find the vertex, right? We need to find that. Well, one thing we can do is we can eliminate some of these some of these answers, right? Like D. The axis of symmetry is not, in the negative area of x, so we can actually eliminate D from the possibilities. The next step is to plug this in to our equation up here and get what f of x is, because that will give us the y value. So we take that negative half and we use negative 2 and we just plug it in. 1/2, that's negative 1/2 squared minus 2 times x. Substitute the negative 1/2 again, minus 1. So there you go. Negative 1/2 squared is negative 1/2 times negative 1/2, which is a positive 1/4. But then you have to multiply by negative 2, so it's negative 2 times 1/4. And then minus 2 times negative 1/2, so it's negative times negative is a positive. Okay, and 2 times 1/2 is a 1. And then we have to subtract 1 at the end. So negative 2 times 1/4 plus 1 minus 1. Well, 1 minus 1 just cancels out. Okay, so what are we left with? Well, let's take a look. We had negative 2. So it was negative 2 times 1/4 minus 1 plus 1, right? Okay, so that all cancels out. So we're left with negative 2 times 1/4, which is negative 2 over 4, which is negative 1/2. So our line of symmetry was x equals negative 1/2 or negative 0.5. And our vertex is going to be negative 1/2, negative 1/2. So the correct answer here is B. All right. Number 7. The ball is thrown into the air with upward velocity of 36 feet per second. Its height, h, in feet after t seconds is given by the function height equals negative 16t squared. Let's see. Let's make that better here. Height equals negative 16t squared plus 36t plus 9. Okay. And how many seconds does the ball reach its maximum height? Round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. Okay. So again, we're looking for a maximum. That means, this thing is going to be a negative, 16t squared, so it's going to kind of look like that, okay? It's going to have a maximum, and that maximum is the vertex of the parabola, okay? So remember, the maximum or minimum of any parabola is always going to be negative b over 2a. So in this case, here's a, here's b, here's c. So b is going to be 36, so it's minus 36 because it's minus b there, divided by 2a, and a is negative 16. Okay, so we need to find that. We just multiply it out. These two negatives here will cancel out. Okay, so we have 36 over 32. All right, and 36 over 32 is 9/8. And if you were to divide that out, you get 1.13. Okay, so that's my time. All right, 1.13 seconds is when it reaches its maximum height. So 1.13 seconds, so my only options are now A, B, or C. Okay, I've eliminated D. So it's A or B or C. That's my only options. All right, so how far, it says what is its maximum height. Okay, so we got the seconds, but now we need to find out how high it actually went. Well, this is our time. So it's negative 16 times the time. Oops, that's a 13. Times the time squared. And then we have to get a function plus 36 times the time. Okay, 1.13, that's supposed to be 13. And then plus 9 at the end. Okay, so we have to multiply this all out. So we end up with negative 16 times 1.13 squared is 1.2769. And then we add 36 times 1.13, and then we have to add 9 because of the function. Okay, so what does that come up with? We would get negative 20.4304 after multiplying that by negative 16. And then 36 times 1.13 is, sorry, that should be a plus. $40.68. Okay, and then we have to add 9. We add all that together, we get 29.2496 feet. We're going to round off to the nearest hundredth place here. So our answer is 29.25 feet is the maximum height it reaches. And so our answer is B. Okay, number 8. A volleyball court is shaped like a rectangle, has a width of x meters and a length of 2x meters. Okay, so we have to just draw a picture. Okay, its area. What is the expression for the area? Well, area is length times width. This is the width, this is the length. Okay, so we just multiply those together. X times 2x. You get 2x squared, and that's your answer. So that's B. All right. For number 9, what's the factor form? We got 3a squared minus 24ab plus 48b squared. Okay, first of all, is there something that we can take out of all of these? Yeah, we can take out a 3. So we get 3a squared minus 8ab plus, what's 48 divided by 3? It's 16. All right, so 16b squared. All right, so with that, we can now make this a nice little, split up that trinomial inside. Okay, so we get A, and remember we need two numbers that multiply to get 16 but add to get negative 8. So if they do that, they must both be negative. And here I can use minus 4b and a minus 4b. That'll work. So when I multiply that out, so that's my answer right there. It's the letter C. But I can also express this as 3 times a minus 4b squared. Okay? So either way works. Okay. And last problem for the quiz. Which of the following shows 9t squared plus 12t plus 4 factored completely? All right, well, you can't take anything out, 9, 12, and 4. So we have to get two that will multiply together to give our 9t squared. So we got 3t and 3t. All right, so we do have, they got to multiply to get 4. Well, you can either use 4 or 1, or you could use 2 and 2. So let's try 2 and 2. They got to have the same signs because 4 is positive. But they got to both be positive because you got a positive 12. So they have to be both positive because they have to have the same sign anyway. Two negatives added together can't give us a positive. So 3t, it would be 3t plus 2 times 3t plus 2, or 3t plus 2 squared. And that is our answer, and that is letter A. Okay, thank you.